Hello, folks. Welcome to Los Comics TV. I'm your host, Javier Hernandez. And I got to wish everybody Happy New Year, right? 2022. Like everybody says, it's got to be better than 2021 and 2020. Yeah, let's all hope for the best. I'm sure we're all making our plans, whatever we do in life, for our lives, with family, with friends, with our career, and a lot of us with our art. In my case specifically, with my comic book work. So we'll talk about that. If you're new to the show, or if you just like a reminder every episode, I'm a cartoonist. My most well-known, longest-running property comic book is El Muerto. This is a preview book that came out, oh my God, in 2020. Yikes. So it's the first, it's part one of the upcoming graphic novel, Casa del Diablo. And when I say part one, it means the book, the graphic novel has all three parts in it. Some people think it's like three separate books. So it's part one is on display here in this preview book. The first, I think, is 26 pages. So yeah, total, the book is about 120, 130 pages, I believe. So I'm working on currently, so part two's already done. Drawn and inked, I should say. Still got to scan it and letter it. And then I'm currently working on the last section, part three of the graphic novel. So that's what I'm going to do today as far as this episode. We're not reviewing a book or anything or unboxing some manga. I'm going to be drawing a page of my comic. Here's the page. So you're not going to see the whole page throughout the episode because it's not going to fit on the camera. But here's what it looks like. The whole page I'm going to be inking. I already inked the panel borders. And normally I usually work on at the top and then work my way down. So I don't run my hand over. I don't ink this and run my hand over it while it's still drying. But for the purpose of this video and just considering the way I'm going to have to ink it and such and fill in a lot of black, I'm just guessing on the time it'll take. This panel will probably be enough time for just one of my regular length videos, which I know runs from between 25, 30, 35, 40 minutes. I'm going to try to keep this one short, like I always say. So with that in mind, I'm just going to ink this bottom one. Just focus on this, and then later on, I mean, unless I got this done really quick, then maybe I'll jump to that. But otherwise, I think for sure you'll see me ink the bottom half here. So what am I going to do? Yeah, I got my, so as you can see, hopefully it shows up on the camera. Really quick. So, I do layouts, right, on this 8.5 by 11 paper, 8.5, yeah. We used to call it typing paper, but you would call it a photocopy paper that you stick in your copier for your computer for your printing purposes. But yeah, it's just cheap paper, and I draw the whole book on these 120 or 30 sheets, and I do a lot of editing. As you can see on this page, it's been renumbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. It's now page 105. But it went through editing process. At one point, it was page 84, and then I added more pages in the in the earlier part of the story, and then it got bumped up. It was, I think, 82 at one time, 83, 84, 96. And by the time I got done editing the story, adding more pages in the beginning part throughout the book, it bumped this page up to 105, and there's still another probably, I think, 15 pages after this. So that's why when you look at my layout pages, you're always going to see this mad scramble of numbers that keep changing. It's because I edit the book. When I originally drew this book, it was 80, this was page 84. And then, like I said, I always edit it. I go through it. Some pages I throw out. They don't work. They don't look the way I want them to look as far as the layout. I don't care about if it's sloppy or not. It's just a thumbnail page. So I'm not going for prettiness. But if it doesn't work out layout-wise, I toss it out. Or if there's a sequence that I think, I think I need a couple of extra pages in between this scene and that scene to just kind of expand it and give it more breathing room. That's why the numbers fluctuate. So at last count, and this is the final draft I'm working on, so 99.999%, this will be page 105 in the story. But as you can see, it's changed, right? The original page was this. There's 3 panels. And now I just thinking about it and everything, it changed to this. So yeah, even when I do the final thumbnail page that I'm satisfied with, once I got to the sequence, you know, I got the rhythm from the previous pages. I just felt what I did in 3, I can do in 2, and there's going to be caption boxes here and here. So keep that in mind. I won't explain exactly what the scene is because you'll read that in the story, but okay, so what I've done, so you can see some slight blue here, which I blocked it out with blue, just kind of blocking out the head, the body, the shoulders, and then same here, lightly. And normally I could have just left it as like that and then ink it, but I tend to sometimes go in afterwards with my pencil, it's called a lead holder because it's holding the pencil lead in there. So it's not technically a pencil. This little contraption, you stick this thin lead in there, and it's a lead holder, but it's a pencil. So I redraw it. I just draw it in pencil a little tighter, just so I can go over it with the ink. Again, that's an extra step. I don't really need it, but I think it's just helping me. It just helps me see it sharper in focus. And blocking it out with this blue pencil. This is called non-photo blue. When I scan this page, when I scan it, and I do it in what they call black and white mode, it won't pick up the blue pencil at all. So it only picks up the gray pencil. So that's why I kind of use this too, because I don't want to like overly have too much pencil on here by drawing him, blocking it in pencil and then tightening it up. That's just me. So I block it in with blue line, non-photo blue, and then I know it's not going to show up on the scan. And once I ink this, I go through and erase all the pencil marks. Anyway, an extra step, but maybe it's just keeps me in line, keeps me kind of just, I don't know, keeps the art sharper, I guess, whatever. So what I'm going to do is use mostly my Pentel Pocket Brush pen, which I've shown these before, but this I can, let me see. Because sometimes this thing is a little messy with ink and I don't want to get too much ink on my fingers. Let's see, so I can unscrew it just to show you. Oh my gosh, I'm glad I did that. It's empty. You know what? That's good that I did this because, well, now you can see how I fill a brush pen. So these are Japanese pens. So I pop this off. Right, see how it's empty? It's dried up ink. That really happens. Like, it's a good accident. Because I've been caught inking on camera. I'm reaching over for the ink cartridge. I've been caught inking on camera and I run out of ink. Let's see here. I think I got some up here. Actually, I have an extra. I got 2 of these actually on the side. Which it comes with 2 cartridges. So I'm just going to open it. Oh, here, you know what? I just found my, wow, here we go. We've seen this, a lot of behind the scenes. I'm seeing these little packs of the ink cartridges. I guess they're 4 packs or 5 packs. So I buy like a whole pack of them at a time. You know, always go through these. Someone once told me on Facebook or something, goes, hey, why don't you just fill these empty ones with ink? And, you know, yeah, that's definitely probably a smart thing to do. But maybe it's cheaper too, right? A big bottle of ink. But right now, you know, so years later after the guy told me that, and I agreed, I still been doing this way. So I just pop it in. When you pop it in, it breaks a seal. So now this ink will start flowing through the tip. And then, oops. I don't know if you guys were expecting to see like this behind the scenes thing. Some people find it interesting. And then screw the back end back on. And then put the cap back on. Now the thing is though, now that it's not going to ink really good in the beginning because the ink has not got up into the tip yet. That's the only issue about doing that right off the top. And you know, like I said, I don't edit these videos, or those that cut this part out. So that I do apologize for. I always have scrap paper with me to test the ink. Hey, look at, I don't know, this might be the old ink that was left in the tip though. So you know what, we'll find out together. The magic of what we call live TV, right? So what I'm going to do is, yeah, use this. And I also have these microns, which I'll probably end up using. I'll show you those a little later. And my Tombow dual brush pens. They're not refillable, but they do have black ink and they got a brush tip on it. So let me start with Diego here, the star of our comic, and the lead character I've been working on for 22 years, which actually in February of 2022, oh wow, you see that? I accidentally hit the paper with the ink, but you know what? That's the bottom of his nose. How lucky was that? So in February of 2022, that'll be 20, let me think. Is it 24 years? 2022. Yeah, 24 years since I debuted the first El Muerto comic. Which that means 2023 is the 25th anniversary. But so next year will be 24 years since I launched my El Muerto comic book series with that first issue, Days of the Dead, the numero uno edition. For those of you who were around back then, and for those of you who are up in San Jose, California, where I debuted the book at the Alternative Press Expo, the Ape Show, Alternative Press Expo. Yeah, that's quite a number of years ago. But you know, like people say, when you're doing what you love, the time just goes by, and next thing you know, you've got a full career behind you, or in process, I should say, right? Behind you sounds so final, like, oh, it's done. No, it's definitely a work in progress, my friends. So that's the plan, and of course that's the hope. So okay, and far as so sometimes it's good, or we like to reflect on the past year. You know, like everybody else in the world, living under the second year of the worldwide COVID pandemic and all that entails, which for most of us, pretty much everybody, you know, stay at home, distancing type procedures, and all the other safety measures you take. But the stay at home, obviously, in regards to being an artist, a comic book artist, stay at home means not just me, but people who run comic book shows. In other words, yeah, has not been any really major, you know, outings, signings, comic book conventioneering, whatever to speak of for the last 2 years. I remember my last show I did in 2020 was, I think, around February. So I switched to the Tombow dual brush pen. I showed you it has a thick brush on one end, and this is more of like it's a little thick, but it's a fine point, and I like it for like when I gotta do curved drawings, curved lines. And I don't use a French curve. It's a tool that a lot of artists use, and with good reason. It gives you perfectly straight lines. Or there's the stencils with all these kind of curves, which I do have some. I just never bring it out as I'm drawing, you know. I just, unless I really, really, really need it, like it's like a really long line or something. But for the most part, you know, I like these because I don't like freehanding it, because it just gives, at least I feel, it gives it a very spontaneous. It's not a perfect line, but that's okay. I just like the fact that it looks like, oh, people see that, oh, somebody's hand drew that. And in my case, it's not the most steady hand. We can definitely look at some comic art with, you know, it looks like the inkers, the artist had the hand of a computer. I mean, it's a beautifully immaculate line, that's great. But this is an aesthetic choice on my part. So there we go. I've said this before too. I mean, and this applies to any artist, not just visual artists. I mean, I guess it could be anything, musician but I mean, we're talking comics, so comic art. You know, every line that you do, that you put down, that gets printed and it's forever embedded on that comic book page that people are always going to pick up and look at. That's your line work, you know, that's your signature line work. Straight or perfect or wonky or however you want to call it. That's just, so doing this by hand and, you know, hands free, I guess, whatever you call it. All the idiosyncrasies of my hand movements and hand gestures, whatever, they're all in here. They're all on this page, on all my pages, in all my books. So I know I appreciate, because, you know, I am a comic reader as well. I read a lot of comics, and I appreciate looking at the artist's work and just, you know, I don't sit there minutely go through every line. Oh, look, there's bumpy, that one's not straight. No, but overall, it just has an aesthetic. It's the artist's aesthetic. And yeah, idiosyncrasies and all, I think those are nice things to have in any art. You know, sometimes things get edited, or, you know, music gets, you know, you have producers on it and everything, and, you know, they do all the great work. They really make these things, a lot of times they help usher them into like the field of classics, whatever, even though it comes originally from an artist, a writer, a musician, whatever. But sometimes the polish can come from the artists themselves, and maybe it's not as polished as it should be, but that's okay. It's their truest line. You're getting the true aesthetic of the artist in question. So, okay, so that's all inked, basically, this page, as far as the line work. Remember, El Muerto, he's got black eyeballs, and the way I show his pupil is they're like, it's not that it's not so much that he has a white pupil, but as far as comic art, you know, I'm showing just like a white highlight. So that's why I draw kind of splotchy. It's not meant to be an iris, which would be a circle. Think of like a black marble with when the light hits it, it's like a white highlight on it. One of the times I remember seeing that effect was on Batman the Animated Series. I think, was it the 3rd or 4th season? They turned the Joker's eyes, I think they were black with a white highlight in it. I think I remember it that way. I guess he had regular eyes before, right? Like white with a black iris. But anyway, I don't know if that was the first time I saw that. It might have been, but it just stayed with me. I go, yeah, that's a great way to show a black eyeball, but you want to show a little bit of life in it by putting the little white highlight on the iris, or where the iris would be. Okay, so now we're going to ink the hair. I'm looking for a sheet of paper, because I want to put it underneath there. So my arm doesn't smear over that pencil or whatever. All right, so 2021, again, for the most part, as far as doing events and such, pretty much nothing for me the whole year, I guess, with like most people. I did do a free comic book day event at my friend Peter's shop, Nostalgic Books and Comics, here locally. I live in the LA area, in Whittier, California. His shop's in San Gabriel. So that I forgot when that was. It wasn't in the normal May, because May was just too crazy for doing events still, but I think it was sometime in the summer, if I remember. And that might have been my first event of the year. which is odd, like to have not gone out to any signing, any event for that first half of the year, which was pretty much what all the rest of 2020 was. But and then I did, I think I did one or two library workshops via Zoom. I did one in the Chicago area, which was nice, and I think I did another one. And then as far as the show, then I did. I'm trying to think. I can't see. I should have looked this up before I got on here. But the biggest event I did this year, and it was my big thing just to get out of the house finally after a year and a half. I went to Johnstown, Pennsylvania, which I don't know if I talked about it in a previous episode. Obviously, if you follow me on social networks, you know about it. Johnstown, Pennsylvania. This past summer was it September 11th. Weekend. Johnstown, Pennsylvania is the hometown of Steve Ditko, comic book artist, which we talk a lot about here on this show. And the Bottle Works Museum had an exhibit in his honor. It's the first time they had a big exhibit, any exhibit for him, which was great. Which brought a lot of attention to the townspeople. Like, oh, we didn't know Steve Ditko, the co-creator of Spider-Man, was from our town, so that was really cool. So I was invited to go out there and participate. They had a Ditko Con on the Saturday, I believe. So there was a 2-month-long exhibit, museum exhibit, which was fantastic. I went to that, checked that out the first day I got there. Obviously, there's like all kinds of art, a lot of reproductions of art. A lot of the real treasures I thought were the personal items from the Ditko family who supported that. They did support the museum, the exhibit. So we got to see a lot of Steve Ditko photographs, artifacts from his army days, personal artifacts from his high school days, his art, his young art, when he was a younger student, which was amazing. So that was a fantastic weekend there. I got to meet a lot of his family, his Steve Ditko's brother, Pat, and of course my friend Mark Ditko was there. And I got to meet a lot of his cousins. A lot of the Steve Ditko's nephews. Wonderful people. They're just amazed by when their uncle passed away, they were just amazed to see all the news coverage. Because there was a lot of news coverage on it, co-creator of Spider-Man, Steve Ditko, da-da-da. They were amazed, and to hear the outpouring of fans around the world and such. So it was really great to be there that particular weekend for that show in his hometown of all places. So that was a big trip, and that was my first airline trip in like 2 years. So it was a lot of firsts for me as far as like, post-pandemic, or at least during the pandemic. But at least at that particular time of the year, in the summer, it was like, okay, things were kind of waning a little better. Now it's kind of surged up again. But yeah, it was a great trip. So yeah, that was I never thought I'd go to Johnstown, because when for years I knew about Ditko, and he was from there, but he didn't live there. He lived in New York all his adult life as an artist. So I figured, well, why would I ever go to Johnstown? What am I going to do there, right? Look up a family member or something. But then it's like, wow, they end up having an exhibit, and the family's there and everything. So yeah, it was a wonderful event. It was a true, I think it's like a dream come true in some ways. So I hope they do more of those. Hope they do another one this year, or at least they plan to do in the years to come another one. So I think it's good for the town to acknowledge their resident there, Steve Ditko's contributions to not just comic art, comic culture, but world culture, pop culture, entertainment, whatever you want to call it. Because yeah, Spider-Man, which is not all he's done by any means, but of all the things he's done, Spider-Man is the biggest. And of all the comic book superheroes, there's got to be top three maybe? Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man. So quite an accomplishment. So yeah, that was a great trip. Like I said, just to get out, I've never been that far across the country. I've been out to Texas, Ohio, but yeah, I'll say Pennsylvania was definitely my first, I guess, East Coast trip. So yeah, it was in many ways it was a lot of firsts for me, and just a great highlight for the year. And then the most recent thing I did here was ChicanoCon at the in honor of New Year's. Have a drink. here locally, where I live in Bell, the city of Bell, there was at a brewery, Border X Brewing, I think it is. They have a brewery in San Diego area. They opened up one here in Bell, and in the past over there they've done a Chicano Con, so they did another one. They did one here, their first one here, just celebrating, like, you know, Mexican American Latino artists. So yeah, that was the most recent event, maybe about a couple of weeks ago, which I tout as my last event of the year, since it was just 3 more weeks, I think, in December at the time. So yeah, but it'll definitely be time to get back on the road again in 2022. So okay, the plan here is this background in this panel is going to be all black. So let me think. Let me ink it. I'm not trying to think because it's already, I'm looking at the time. Okay. You know, I'm gonna ink it. I am going to do that. So I'm going to ink the top part of the bottom part of this drawing, his hand here, because it's coming down into this panel, which you could do that as a artist. Yes, you can have one figure start, you know, crossing into another panel. That's perfectly okay. I didn't know you could do that. You know, I might end up inking this whole figure, like. You know what, I'm going to just ink this figure and see where we go from there. This should be dry here, but I'm going to be mostly up here, like, I think that's in camera range. I'm going to be mostly up here, so. So yeah, there's a couple of shows already. Actually, a month or two ago, you know, in late November, maybe early November, I got a message from a local library. They wanted me to do a. They're doing a little, like those little mini conventions. Libraries have been doing that lately, last couple of years, which is great. Like a little mini microcon or mini con, which is a great way to you know, bring new people into a library and just have a nice event there, and you know, it could help maybe get some attention for their graphic novel sections too, which is good. But I was invited to an event. I believe it's in May. So they wanted me to go there, and I go, yeah, I could do that. And I'm going to do one of my culture and comics lectures, which I've done for a couple of years now. It's talking about Latino creators in the American comic market. Just like a quick little survey. And then from there, I dovetail into my work, into my El Muerto comic, and you know, some of the artists I mentioned in the lecture were influences on me and such. But then I dovetail to my work, and I just give people behind the scenes of creating El Muerto, self-publishing, coming up with the ideas, making the art, all that stuff. Talking about the movie, so yeah, I'm going to be doing that, and it's I think May 7th. Obviously, I'll talk about it later in another episode. And of course, I think most of you probably, for the most part, follow me on social medias, so you'll definitely see me talking about that and putting out the word on the show in the library. So so I got that lined up, and then there's word about the Latino Comics Expo that I co-founded. That'll be coming out soon from the people who run it now. As you may know, I co-founded the thing in 2011, Latino Comics Expo, with my friend Ricardo Padilla, and this year I retired, or last year I retired from it in late 2021. Like, you know, retire from it meaning I'm not gonna work organizing it anymore because it's so much work. And the reason I retired, we don't say resign. That sounds like you threw your fist down at the board meeting. I quit. No, it's just a nice retirement. Excuse me. I would just to focus more on my comic work, because every year when the show comes around, which I love doing, and I'm glad we started it, and it's given so much joy and satisfaction to me, but also to everybody, the other artists and the creators and the attendees, and of course all the fans who show up and everything. So, but yeah, it's time to really batten down and focus on these graphic novels of mine. I got a whole, I got a whole 8 more to do after this one that I'm working on. I'm looking at this as a 10 graphic novel series. So I can't afford to have like 2 or 3 or more months of the year taken away from it as organizing the convention. So I talked to my partner in the thing, Ricardo, and our friend Bobby Hernandez, who's been helping us out the last couple of years, operations and such. And they're going to be doing it on their own. I mean, I'll be way in the background consulting, offering advice, whatever, but the heavy lifting as far as organizing all the artists and the panels and all that work, that's the stuff that I do for the thing. Yeah, I'm stepping back from that. So that's why I said the people who run it will be telling us about the news on the 2022 show. And then there should be at least one other one I know of in March. The Latinx Comic Arts Festival put on by my friend Teresa Rojas. Dr. Rojas is an instructor there at Modesto College up in Modesto, California, and she'll be putting on her first live show. Yeah, because the last 2 years she's had to do virtual show because, COVID, pandemic and such. Give me 1 second. Just had to adjust this beige sheet. In case you guys wonder why I always have this, it's because it helps me make sure that I have the camera in focus. I mean, I have my whatever I'm looking at, my book or a sheet, that it's in the camera range. So yeah, you're getting a good glimpse of behind the scenes here. I need to tape that down because that tape's wearing off. Okay, so sorry about that. And yes, I noticed I was inking the figure with the Tombow and not my brush pen, but it gives me the same effect. I just want to add some thicker lines here on the folds of the shirt and such. Okay. Let's bring out the microns. Yeah, that one works. Because there are some clouds behind them up here. And these are just very quick and wispy little clouds. There we go. Maybe another one's going here. There we go. Like I said, there's going to be some panels here, some maybe there might be thought balloons. If not, there'll just be panel captions, and then of course down here. So that's basically the page as far as oh, I know what I want to do on these tendrils here. I want to add a lot more what do we call these? Just, it's like on your finger where where it bends, just a little striations to show that, hopefully give the reader a sensation that these are, well, you'll see in the story what they are, but bendable appendages, tendrils, tentacles, maybe we could say. So it's like I tell my students when I teach comic classes. I mean, a lot of the little details you add onto a drawing, it's to help sell the idea of what this, what it is. So tendrils do have, they do bend. So these are all the little bends and the folds in the, whatever the skin may be made out of on your particular creature, whatever you're drawing with tendrils. A lot of comics is just trying to convince the reader of something, right? Because that's not a head, it's just black lines when you think about it. And maybe color if it was a color comic, but I'm trying to convince people this is a head being enveloped by these tendrils. But really it's just lines. But because of our visual mental process, yeah, and the way I make it look like a head and you see it, okay, yeah, you see it's the character, it's his head. Yeah, I don't think that's a major revelation, but it's always something that kind of trips me out to get like a white sheet of paper like this. And then just with black, because the El Marco stories, at least, they're always just black and white for the most part. All this is a sheet of paper with black lines on it, basically. But it's way more than that. It's a story, right? It's a story with images, characters, dialogue, emotions, a plot. At least that's the hope. I hope people don't just look through it and just see a bunch of lines. Otherwise, I wasted a good couple of years of my life. But I don't think that's going to be the case. So you know what? I think that's going to be it for me for this video. I know I promised you a black background, but I did give you this extra panel. So here's you can see the whole thing. And so just turn your TV sideways so you can see it. Here's the top. And here's the bottom. So that's it. You know, I didn't need too many tools to do this. Let me show you. This is what I need besides the paper and the ruler for the straight lines up here. I just needed these things right here to create the page. And I'll need more of the black. I'll need definitely more of this to fill in this background and probably put some white highlights, white, I give a cosmic background. I know now I'm like tempting you, like you're not going to see it till you'll see it eventually, right? When you get the book. But if you see my work before, you'll know how I use this. But I think that's it for me then. Again, I got more planned for 2022. I just mentioned a couple of the shows. But yeah, you know, it's a new year. We have a new year now of Los Comics TV. Be doing more reviews, or I guess I call them overviews, whatever, on different comics and books that I enjoyed or will be enjoying. Of course, I cover a lot of manga on this show, and I'll be doing more art demos, and you know, I'll be doing more deep dives on some of my back library of comics. Got a lot of comics that I never talked about that I've done, and just whatever else pops up. So yeah, thanks everybody. Again, I wish everyone out there very healthy, productive, safe, exciting 2022. Thanks for watching this episode and all the previous, whatever previous ones you've watched. So please, everybody does this on their videos. Please take a second to subscribe down below to the channel. Just click on it, and then you will always be notified of the videos. If you could please like the video, and leave comments. I always like discussing things, what you saw in here or anything you bring up. I always try to answer pretty quick in the comment section below. And always, as always, you can share the video. I'd appreciate that. Let people know, hey, check out this video. It's pretty cool. So thanks. Bye-bye.